Guess who's back?
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. The live shows are back. I've had a little break. It's been a decent one, as always. Very, very hot, but all the same, good to recharge the batteries. And welcome, as always, to Steve, to Mitch, to Keith. And we've got Joe on as well. Joe did a live show this week, and he's scared in case people don't recognise him in the street, so I thought better get him on. In fact, it's the complete opposite. He said, people don't want to get too much of me. That's what he did say. He's very humble, is our Joe. But good to have the lads here. Great to have you all watching, as usual, and plenty to talk about, as always. And Nick Pope, Keith, has suddenly descended onto Twitter tonight as a bit of a legend. Toon Poles has started something there, hasn't he?
I didn't see it. I was out, and I was because originally thought we were going to be on at 5 o'clock. So I didn't see what he put on, so you'd have to tell us what he's put on.
Well, I, to be honest, I'm catching up because I've come back on a train. All I've seen is Nick Pope's trending, Toon Poles is trending, and John from Q-Tech, as always, has got his T-shirt up. So get yourself onto me Twitter, at Steve Wraith. There is a Toon Poles, Burger King, Nick Pope Twitter T-shirt up there now for the food bank. Get yourselves on. But yeah, look, it just shows you how good our fan base is. The latch onto something, and lots of people putting lots of tweets out there, and yeah, very, very funny. But
it's positive for a new player to come in and do something and to get involved is great. But
it's like Colo's Tea Party all over again.
It is. But when you look at it, sometimes where social media backfires, because I got a picture where Lingard, their manager, put his arm around Lingard, and he was whispering something to him. And somebody wrote on it, you're not in this one's class. So anyway, I posted it. It had 1,100 likes. So people were sort of jumping all over Lingard, saying he spends too much time on social media. So I think it is a fine balance. But I think it's great when it's one of our players because they have every right to be happy and to communicate with the fan base. But I haven't seen it, so I might be a bit behind on this.
Nick Pope's starting to take over the chat as well, Steve. It's just one of those things that happens every now and then, isn't it? On Twitter, it's it can be a good tool for the positive, and all the big name companies. I've seen Smarties, Polos, loads of other companies getting involved. All the usual suspects with good social media accounts. It's got imagination of its own, and it's running wild at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think this has been born from the fact that Nick Pope played on Saturday and had absolutely nothing to do. He must have been bored out of his skull, and he must have thought, you know what? If it's going to be like this every week, I think I'll just set up a social media account, and I could just have Twitter while I'm playing. I could just do it that way, because he did. Let's face it, have nothing to do that game. I mean, I think he didn't touch the ball for the first 20 odd minutes, did he? And even then, I think most of the trouble he had were with back passes. But great, absolutely. As Keith says, great to see a new player come in, embrace the fan base, and the fan base embrace him, which, let's face it, was always going to happen. That's the way that Newcastle fans are. But very funny, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, Mitch. It's just a good little Friday night feeling on Twitter tonight, and people looking forward, I guess, to the game tomorrow.
In a fabulous study in how the people who run social media accounts for big brands hate to miss out on a trend, and want to jump onto a trend. And I bet half of them haven't got a bloody clue what they're joining in with. But that's the beauty of it at the end of the day. And to have our lot doing it with a player who's made an immediate impact, really, in some respects, obviously. So happy days. It's good to talk about positive things on Twitter, and it's good to talk about positive things that can come out of social media. So I'm all for it. Any kind of shenanigans like that, I'm all for it.
I suppose we'll know that it's gone well when the Vatican join in as well, won't we?
Yeah. I've got to be honest, I have seen a couple of the lads who I'm in the WhatsApp group with from the old football club, Felon, have already sent me a couple that have been put out by a couple of people who I've clearly blocked over the years. And they haven't missed the opportunity to link me with this as well. One of which actually mentions a T-shirt. So well done to John from QTech for getting the T-shirt up for the food bank straight away. And we're never miss an opportunity to get involved. That's for certain. Look, it's just a part of the feel-good factor, Joe. The Nick Pope situation is, as I say, it's one we've seen before on social media, but it just shows that big companies do get involved, but our fan base is what it's all about. And well done to Toon Pools as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice, isn't it? As the lads have said, it's really nice to be talking about Twitter in a positive light, because usually we're either defending each other or defending ourselves or arguing with someone over something. It's fantastic, Steve. And interestingly, isn't it? It's quite interesting, isn't it? How this is the week where we're looking for somebody to join the board to kind of get involved with commercial deals and bring more kind of money and interest to the club. And here we are talking about Nick Pope and Burger King. So yeah, long may it continue. It's fantastic. And I agree with Steve Hasty. I assume that he sent these tweets out during about 3:20 on Saturday. But I tell you what a way to ingratiate yourself with the fan base, isn't it? It's fantastic. So it feels good. We've all got a smile on our face. We're looking forward to tomorrow, and long may it continue.
Yeah, long may it continue. Let's look back on the first game, Keith. I think we were all expecting a win. We got one. I described it as a professional performance. Fitness was great. There was a couple of standout performances in there, but it was a good team performance. And Eddie Howe was clearly pleased with it. His interviews afterwards, suggesting that he thought Newcastle had a great day, and that that was the style of play that he wants Newcastle to play. He also said, it is difficult to maintain that level every week, but he hopes that they can, and hopes that they will. But yeah, it was a positive start, Keith.
It was 99% positive for me. Somebody said something which like typically expecters of Mackham said. It took a centre half to break a deadlock, and you listen to it, and because I like to listen and think, well, he's got a point. At that stage, we were by far the better team, but we hadn't brought them down, and it was a goal out of nothing. I mean, the ball went back to him, and he just unleashed it, and where it went was incredible. And the next goal was better carved out. It was a magical touch by Callum Wilson. I mean, when you see that again, if that had been Bergkamp, they'd been playing it, on the 9 o'clock news. But when you see the team performance, the one thing I brought away was that Kamara is just in a different league. There was a lot of good performances. Joe Linton did well, Willock did well, but the bloke Kamara is just in a different league. When the ball comes to him, I still haven't worked out what he does, but I've said this to loads of people. The ball comes to Bruno, and he does something. And I haven't seen enough clips. I wish I could slow it all down and watch it. But he does something that gives him a yard. His first touch gives him a yard, or whoever's on him. And there's one guy come running into him. And he flicked the ball over his head and trapped, sort of brought it down on the other side. He just made him look like a nonce. He just flipped it over like, see you later, pal, and caught it. So he has got that mesmeric talent. But what does he do? He does something when the ball comes to him. I don't know whether he feigns or he does something, and it gives him a yard. And I don't know what it is, but he was just different gravy the other day. I watched the game, and I'm like every Newcastle fan. I'm nervous because one injury to, well, let's suppose you lost St. Maximin and Wilson. You're light up top, you're light for that kind of thing. And it's all right saying put Joe Linton and do that, but then the work he got through in that game was phenomenal. Joe Linton was everywhere. So for me, I'm confident these signings will come. I'm hopeful who they're looking at, but I watched the game and I thought 2-0. It was a far bigger gap than that, and hats off to Forest. They put, I think they signed 14 or 12 of them had landed, and they played 5 or 6. And you can't put that many people into a game. You can't put so many new people in, just expect all to gel and kick off. And that lad who was, I think it was Johnson or somebody, was played on the right wing. I mean, he was probably one of the best players in the Championship last season. He had a stinker. He'd done nothing for 60 minutes. You know what I mean? He just had an awful game. And I think when you spend that much money, I think it's really hard for teams coming up. And one team always starts well. Don't know if that's going to be Fulham or Fulham looked awesome against Liverpool, but from Newcastle's point of view, it was businesslike. It was a great first game, but we need 2 players in.
Steve, your views on last week's game? Great to see you at the food bank as well last week, as well as out and about with us. We had a good catch up, me and Mitch and Stu, etc., with you and the lads. It was great. And your views on the game.
Well, for a start, if it had been Bergkamp who scored, I'd have been shouting fluke. So let's get that out of the way.
Good crack, mate.
But it was one of those performances by Newcastle from the first minute. It was, Keith, you used the word professional. They were just so much more interested in the game. I mean, they were first to the ball. They defended from the front. The movement was excellent. You talk about Bruno and that. What has he got? Well, what I think he has this spatial awareness on the pitch. He has this natural ability to be able to find the space before the ball even comes to him, and that's a gift. That's not something that you can really, really expect from every footballer. To me, it's a gift, and I think it comes from that oozing of confidence that top class Brazilian footballers do tend to have. We've seen it for years and years, going right the way back to the 1970s with that fantastic Brazil team that won the World Cup in 1970. They've always had players that can do that, that know where they are on the pitch and know where the opposition's going to be. Gives them that tiny. It's only a fraction of a second, and it's exactly the same in the opposite way when Almiron has the ball. And you're waiting for him to release it, and he takes that split second where you think he's going to play it, and then he has to pull it back onto his left foot to lay it on. For somebody very rare does he play it that instantaneous second with the right foot, and that's the difference. That's what it does. That's what him being able to do, Bruno being able to do what he does and making the space, and Almiron having that space when he's made it, suddenly being closed down, and the whole emphasis and the whole movement has gone. So that for me were the 2 defining factors. I thought Callum Wilson had an excellent game. I thought he led the line really, really well. He showed what a centre forward's about. And it's interesting that even Gareth Southgate's talking about him being a sort of a possibility for his extended squad, because it's a bigger squad this time, isn't it, in the World Cup? I think they're taking 26 and 20 instead of 23. And any manager worth his salt would have been using those extra places for strikers, and not only strikers but goal scorers as well. So I think it's a great opportunity for Callum Wilson. But you're right about Johnson. I kept my eye on him because from the first minute, he just wanted the ball at his feet. He didn't want to run for the ball. He didn't want to move for the ball, and he didn't want to win the ball back. And if I was the manager, I would have hauled him off after half an hour, quite frankly.
I agree.
That for me, bearing in mind it was the first game of the season, and you're in a squad where they've just brought in 12 and they've brought in potentially another 3 before kick-off tomorrow, you'd be looking at that kid and going, do you want to be part of this squad? Because it's very, you could be languishing with the stiffs for the next 6 months, son. If that's the way you're going to play, you're going to have to book your ideas up. But concentrating on us, absolutely great performance, and I think you could tell that in the pub afterwards when we were standing talking. Everybody wanted to talk about the game. Everybody was saying how great, how thoroughly enjoyable it was. The day itself was superb. The weather was brilliant. And we walked away for the first time in a while, winning our first game of the season at home, 3 points, and setting us up nicely for tomorrow.
Joe, your views on last weekend's game?
Yeah, I think it was a professional performance, Steve. To be honest, I don't think we I would argue we didn't even get into third gear, but we certainly didn't need to get out of it. But actually, I really appreciated that. It was nice watching Newcastle thinking, do you know what? We're doing enough. We're controlling the game. We're controlling the football. But actually, if we need to step it up, we can and we will. And I've not thought that about Newcastle for a long time. And it's interesting, you know, because if you rewind back 12 months, just that gut-wrenching feeling. We got stuffed and played off the park against West Ham. We were all having a pint afterwards saying, well, this is it. You know, we'll do well to get 10 points this season. And the massive difference between how we felt last Saturday in comparison to how we felt 12 months ago last Saturday was absolutely unreal, Steve. You could tell we were sharper. We were a hell of a lot better. I would actually worry, without detracting anything away from Newcastle, if I was a Nottingham Forest fan, because if that was a newly promoted progressive side, I thought they just weren't at it at all. And it's all right talking about that guy on the wing, but you know, we've got to mention Mr. Lingard. And I think looking at that, if that's what Newcastle were going to get, just kind of strolling around. I read a statistic, I think it was on Twitter, that kind of said no tackles won, no successful passes, no nout. And if they're paying £200,000 a week for him, I'd be slightly concerned about that. And that brings me nicely to kind of people like Gumares, people like, Dan Burn, again, absolutely superb. And we were all, the debate, every single one of us before the game talked about what's the back four going to be? Who's going to play at the back with Botman was kind of the conversation. And I tell you what, Fabian Schär and Dan Burn, if that's the level of kind of performance that they're going to put in, Botman's going to be on that bench for quite a long time, I think. So, yeah, what can we say about Bruno? Unbelievable. Nobody looks like they've got the ability to take the ball off him. His close control, his vision, and actually seems like a strong lad. You know, people are bouncing off him. I was delighted with Joe Willock's performance. I thought he was absolutely superb. And yeah, as Keith said, the finish from Callum Wilson, the sun was shining, the beer was nice, although the 1892 did run out the brown ale, of course. But apart from that, I'll take that all day long. Great start of the season.
Yeah, great start of the season. I've thoroughly enjoyed it as well. Big game tomorrow. We'll come to that later on. How big a miss is John Joe Shelby going to be, Keith? We've had ups and downs with him on this platform over the last couple of years. You know, I've made my opinion on him quite clear at times, that the guy's been a waste of space, but then other times he's been undroppable, and certainly Eddie Howe seems to have got the best out of him. He's out now for 3 months, 12 weeks. Howe today mentioned it at the press conference that he's on the road to recovery now. Terry's put a question into the chat as well, saying, what do you lads think about Howe saying that he will add Shelby to the 25-man squad despite being injured for 3 months? Is it a waste of a place? Sum all of that up, Keith. What's your views on Shelby?
The answer to Terry Armstrong is yes, Terry. I think it is. I've got one face, and I only say it as I say it. I'm only a fan, so I won't agree with everybody, and they won't agree with me. But for me, it's. I'm just going to say it. I think it's a blessing. 4 more games, he gets another contract, and for me, if he finishes his season with a shirt on and he's in the first team, I think we've failed in what we set out to do, because I think his legs have slowed down. I think he can distribute good balls, but they're not balls that he's worked and won and chased back for. It's balls that's given to him and then he distributes them. So I'm sorry, when I say, I think we need another midfield player in, and I think him being injured is a godsend in that sense, because I think we need to go and buy something. We need to go and buy a baller who plays in midfield, who. You've got Joe Linton that just covers so much ground. You've got Bruno with all the touches, but it's screaming for a Paqueta for me. If his price is drifted from €70 million originally, what was rumoured, down to what they're saying, 34 million. Like somebody said last week. Do you not think Maddison's better than Paqueta? You've got to look at that and say that's what we're talking about. Shelby's wanting that shirt. I admire the lad. He's gone and lost a load of weight and he's come back fit as a butcher's dog. But his age and his past performances, to me, says that there's a good transfer in him, and there's still a fee can be got for Shelby now. We sell him now. So what I'll be doing is using the money, you could get all right, you might sell him in January, but bringing a Paqueta in because when a bloke's played 30 times for Brazil, he's special. He's better than all these people we see that we go for. That's Premier League players. He's a real special player, and for me, that's where we should be setting our standard. Because if you had 3 Brazilians in there, the camaraderie, the work rate, and they never say die, and seriously, taking Newcastle to the level. I remember when Ricardo Villa and Ozzy Ardiles came to England, and they just did things with the football. They both landed together. And when Tevez came from abroad, they land and they're just a different planet. But I think by bringing Paqueta in now into Shelvey's place, you've got the perfect excuse. You save a new contract. You'll use a substantial wage. I guess he'll be on 50 grand a week. You'll use that towards bringing somebody in on a much, much higher level. I'm talking about a player that's world class, and he's not. So by all means, bombers with your criticism. But for me, Newcastle's bought very, very well, but we need to go that next stage. We haven't got another Bruno in yet. We need to get somebody in there. So when Bruno's injured, we've still got a team out. And I think those players available. Now, to me, his best pal is the person we should be going for. I don't understand the wages. I don't understand whether we've gone from, whether we haven't, whether Eddie fancies him. But what I'm coming back to is to say that for me, this team, the work ethic, the ground they cover has gone past Shelvey.
Interesting thoughts. Tell us what you think about Keith's opinion in the chat. Joe, my mindset really is that, Shelvey's, he has been reborn under Howe. It is a blow because he clearly saw him as part of his plans. However, Bruno did well, in that position. Sean Longstaff can play in that position. We're not struggling as yet, but Keith makes a valid point. And, if Bruno was to get injured tomorrow and he was out for a similar amount of time, suddenly things start to look shaky in that area. You still, for creativity, I guess. Do you know what I mean? We've got a few who can stifle other people's games in there, but the creativity is the key. And, before Shelvey's injury, we were looking for a winger. We're clearly still looking for somebody who can put the ball on, hit the ball on a sixpence and get it onto Callum Wilson's head or Chris Wood's head or whoever's up there and help us get goals. What's your take on the whole Shelvey situation? Should he get a place in that squad?
Interesting, isn't it? I think going back to the original point of, Eddie Howe saying he'll get a place in the squad, he's got to say that, hasn't he? What else is he going to say? Shelvey probably feels bad enough at the moment without being told, by the way, we won't be considering you till at least January. I wane with John Joe Shelvey. I was a massive fan of his, and arguably, I honestly do think Newcastle do look better when he's in the side. Granted, what Keith's saying, yes, his legs, he certainly hasn't got the legs. But, he's another one. We talked about Jamal Lascelles, didn't we? Don't forget, this is the captain/vice captain of Newcastle United, ultimately. Is he better than Sean Longstaff? And is he better than Joe Willock? Is he a better bet than Elliot Anderson? Again, you could argue, yes, he is. We know what we're getting with him. But you've got to take on board what Keith's saying, and what we're talking about is quality. So, yes, he might be better than him. However, Paqueta's better than him, if that makes sense. So if we're thinking about, enhancing the squad, not only enhancing the squad, but enhancing the team, then, yeah, I think if Shelvey was fit, Shelvey plays on Saturday in place of Willock. But if you've got the opportunity to sign James Maddison, Paqueta, whoever else, it would be Shelvey that's coming out of that side, because you ain't taking Bruno out, and you're certainly not taking Joe Linton out. So for me, yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? This thing about play 3 or 4 more games and get yourself a new contract. As Keith said, we could probably do something with the wages. I wouldn't put Shelvey in the bracket of, we talked in the transfer show, didn't we, about there was a cohort of players. Kieran Clark, we talked about Matt Ritchie, we talked about Fede Fernandez. I certainly wouldn't put John Joe Shelvey in that category of player, because I still think he could do a job for us. But if there's an opportunity to say, look, can we move him on or not include him and bring in the likes of Paqueta, I think it's a no-brainer, as Keith said. So I don't know if I answered the question there. I never do. But yeah, he's a good lad. He's a good player. But if we can bring better in, let's do that.
Okay, Steve, your take on John Joe. As I say, we've had mixed opinions on here over the years, haven't we?
Yeah, of course we have, and quite right, because we've had mixed performances from the lad. Let's not put too fine a point on it. He's one of those players. He's an enigma, isn't he? He's either absolutely brilliant and can rip a team apart, or he's complete waste of time. And what you get with John Joe, I think let's look at what Eddie Howe's been doing in training. Let's look at the preseason, and obviously we're hearing that John Joe Shelby was working his socks off. He was fitter than he'd ever been, etc., etc. And then he's got a hamstring injury, which has had to result in an operation. But I think, is that down to the fact that Newcastle are playing a different style of football now? We're playing a faster game. We're playing a shorter game. What Shelby's good. He's good when you want the game to be slowed down and you want to play the long ball. But we haven't got the people up front to play the long ball to. We've got players who like the ball at their feet and like to run with it. In Almiron, in ASM, and we've got Callum Wilson, who likes to lead the line. He likes to play the ball off, and he doesn't necessarily like running behind with a ball over the top, although he can do it, and we've seen him score goals like that in the past. But I think the style that Newcastle are adopting perhaps doesn't suit John Joe Shelby in the mould of the John Joe Shelby that we know, which is the John Joe Shelby who plays that quarterback, slows the game down, looks for the run, and plays the Hollywood pass. People are saying about Paqueta. Well, for me, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle weren't still interested in Paqueta. In fact, I'm almost certain that they are. And he's a different style of midfielder to any ones that we've got as well. He's a lad who can play on the left or the right. And maybe I'm contradicting myself by saying that's what ESM and that's what Almiron can do. But he's one of those players who also scores goals, knows where the goal is, and knows how to get assists. Something that Almiron doesn't, unfortunately. If we go on performances in the league and we forget about playing against lowly opposition in pre-season friendlies. Should he get a contract? Well, he's going to automatically get one once he's fit, if he can manage to get 4 games in this season. Should he get a place in the 25? Is it a waste? That's a big decision to make, because 3 months and then you don't know. Looking ahead, you're thinking, well, who would you bring in if there's nobody coming in and being signed? And I'm certain that just listening to Eddie Howe, he's looking for a midfielder. That's what he said in his press conference this morning. But we've seen what happened with other players when all of a sudden you're out the 25 and then you're out of the team. I would imagine John Joe would feel very, very disappointed if he was out the 25. And you know what? If he was out the 25, I think he'd be looking to move on himself in January, to be perfectly honest. And this is what's going to be really, really interesting about Newcastle in the next few months, certainly in the next few weeks. And if they do strengthen the squad, and does his injury bring in an Elliot Anderson opportunity as well? Certainly on the bench. Doesn't affect the 25-man squad though, so we shouldn't worry too much about that either, because he's a homegrown player. And let's just bring James Maddison into this one, and people talking about James Maddison and Paqueta and John Joe. John Joe Shelby's got more England caps than Maddison's got. Maddison's got 1 England cap. We've got Paqueta, who's got 33 caps for Brazil.
Exactly.
This is Brazil, by the way. And we've got John Joe Shelby, who until 2015 managed to get 6 England caps. So, you could argue that statistics mean nothing, but you could also argue that you get caps because you're quality. And in the case of a Brazilian, that's what you've got 33 caps for, because you're quality. And I hope Newcastle really are in for this guy.
Mitch, the chat is about Shelby. Terry Armstrong came on earlier just asking the question about Howe saying that he would probably stick Shelby in the 25-man squad anyway, despite him being injured. And we just said, Terry's point was, do you think that's a waste of a space?
You could argue with that.
I did.
Yeah, well, no, you
did.
could. But you equally will have the similar argument with the goalkeeper situation last season, and went up 4 in the squad. So, it kind of... It's a difficult one, because if he's dropped from the 25, I'm quite sure his agent will be saying, right, I'm going to knock on the door and get you out of here. I think it's a very tough decision to make.
Oh, he's gone. He's back.
Sorry.
You're back, Mitch. You're back.
Bloody people calling us all times of the bloody day. Did I not know I do podcasts?
What it is to be popular. There you go.
Honestly. Yeah, so for me, it's a very tough decision that might be defined by what we're doing the remainder of the transfer window. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen in the last, I think ideally we'd like a wide player and another centre forward. But then if another midfielder is on the table, then we've got the option. Because Elliot Anderson apparently is pulling up trees in training and doing really, really well, he is a free in terms of a squad place. So do we kind of just leave it as it is and let Shelby keep his number in his place? I do think it's going to be defined by the transfer window more than anything else.
Yeah.
Do you think like a Hudson Odoi or something like that on loan is more somebody for that kind of role, like putting a kid in who's hungry? Same like to Sean Longstaff, like them people who've got legs, who have been coached now properly and gelled, bringing some youth through. And as I say, if Bruno gets injured, I don't see the Shelbys of the world making up those gaps. Whereas if we bring people in and get people on loan, so some of the central midfield players that have come up, and they say Newcastle now are targeting top 6 loan deals, like big 6 loan deal players, and looking at a lot of Chelsea lads. There's people in there in that mix. You've got a separate, fresh set of legs for them, and I just, it might sound hard, but I think. He came back, trained as hard as he could to get in this year. But I think this injury and the fact 4 more games gets him a new contract, next year, I don't see him getting the starting shirt ever. I just don't. And I think you're delaying the inevitable and you're losing the opportunity to go and bring somebody in who can add to the squad and bring something massive. And I just don't see it. I think when your legs go, they go. And I just don't think he's got the pace. We play with a much more intense and a much more closing down. We all over people like a rash, but Shelby's not that kind of player. You know what I mean? So I'm not ashamed to say that. Things happen for a reason. His injury comes, get rid in January, say, and bring a kid in now. Bring a kid in on loan. 20-year-old, 21-year-old.
Do we think, chaps? One of the interesting things last week when we were all talking about what's going to happen with the centre halves. One of the things that was brought into question was Eddie Howe's inability to upset people. So if you think about, we played it safe with Lascelles, we played it safe with the squad numbers, we played it safe with Byrne and Sharp keeping the place, and yes, obviously it was justified. We know that. Do you think he's got it in him to just backheel John Joe Shelby?
I think he's more ruthless. I think he's more ruthless than you think.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I think he is because I tell you what, it takes a bloke with a big pair of balls to bring in someone of the ilk of Gomeris and make him sit on the bench week after week after week. And it wasn't 1 week or 2. It was about 5 games, I think. And then I could say the same up my bottom. As long as you don't get splattered off somebody, if we get battered and it's defensive errors at centre half, then yeah, he'll use that opportunity to bring Botman in. But I tell you what, if we get credible results against Brighton, Man City, teams like that, and I don't mean beating Man City, but I'm saying if you get beat by the odd goal or if you scratch the jaw, I think Eddie Howe's far more capable, in your face, will die by his results than we imagined. I think he's got much more backbone than we ever imagined. I think he's the real deal in every sense.
Yeah. Okay. On to our first section of Friday Night Show. It's the day I met. The Day I Met, the part of the show where I ask you to send in photographs of you meeting famous people from Newcastle United. It could be players, ex-players, managers, ex-managers, or just the tea lady. Get your photographs into me on Twitter. Wesley Robson messaged me on Facebook and great relation of the late great Malcolm Dix. And there he has Sam, his son, meeting Dan Byrne, Eddie Howe, and Jason as well down at the bottom. So great to see that. Fantastic to see as well. The players taking time going in and out of the ground, and the management to meet up with the players. And this one from Paul Charters, former boxing champion of these parts. He's getting himself around, mind. He's met up with Matty Longstaff there. I've got another couple for next week, I think, off of him. And of course, his grandson meeting up with Matty as well. But thanks for those charters. Keep sending us them, mate. And you seem to be meeting different ones each week. Keep them coming in. Send them to me at Steve Wraith on Twitter, and we will feature them on the show. Also got this one from Wayne Bennett. He says, "Hi Steve, I hope you're well, mate." He says, "And enjoying your week. Could you please include the following photo on the Day I Met segment on Friday's show? Two absolute legends and true gents." He says, "It was great to see John there again too, but he was too busy discussing training methods with Peter Beardsley." Thanks, mate. Wayne, thank you for sending that. Great for Keith and for Steve to meet him. Good to meet people. And we had a bit of that, didn't we, chaps, at the weekend with Mitch over as well.
Amazing. There was a load of people over when you think. I mean, Daz Shocks was over, and there was Richie Story and all them out. I mean, Stewie Penman, Mitch, Hasty, just like every time you looked round, there was somebody there. Joe come up, Lenny was there. And then there was loads of people come over. We got talking to two lads from Scotland. It was mad. They come from Falkirk. They get on the they watch the show. They get on the train, and they get up. They're in town. They're on the beer at 11 o'clock anyway. And then they were in the Strawberry for the last drink. They were going down to Wonder Bar last drink, and then they said they get on for a match of the day. And we were talking to them in the Strawberry. They were just absolutely. They were buzzing like father and son, and just great people. But it's great when people come over and have a big crack, and you find out where they come from and that. And a lot of the regulars off here, were met up with us last week, and we had a Mitchell tell you we had a great crowd. There was about 40 of us, and you just didn't you didn't want the game to start, or you didn't want the pre-match drink to end, and then as soon as it kicked, went down, as soon as the game started, then it just blew your mind. I mean, it's mad what's happening because we all think of how many years we've gone and watched shit, like real proper horse shit. Yeah. And then all of a sudden now we all talking about players that's like got 30 caps for Brazil. I mean, I know no one's going to listen to us and say, "Oh, we must do what them fans are saying," but it's just nice that fans have got that freedom in the mind to dream, and freedom to not expect, but to hope. They hope like, we could maybe get him in, you know what I mean? And that's come from this. I think this week reminded me when that Chowdhury went to somebody. I think Leicester. What did he get signed by somebody? The midfield player with all the hair.
He
went to Watford. That's right. And you think of it. Last year we wouldn't pay the $2 million loan fee, and he was the player we were hoping for. And whoever we get, I'm sure we'll get a couple more on this thing. This is like dream time. This is just, I'm going to Brighton tomorrow and like leaving at 5 o'clock, and you just think, like, people think you're nuts, but it is the thing that makes kids smile at Christmas. This like.
Yeah, it is. Things that upset people at Christmas are drinks prices, and I've got to bring this up. Wayne Bennett's tweet. If you're off to West Ham this season, you'll need to remortgage your house for a few pints, was the tweet that he highlighted from Football Away Days on Twitter. Well worth following that, by the way. It's a bit of nostalgia. But just to point out that if you are popping down there, this is something which is happening at most football grounds. I've got to say, crisps £2.50 for a packet of crisps, which you can pick up for probably 80 pence to £1 in a shop, and the pints Well, a half a pint, £3.70, and a pint, £7.60. Wow. I mean, you know, and in a plastic glass, probably out of a bottle, which will have been warm. I mean, I'm not being funny, like, Keith, but, you know, there's prices and prices. And this isn't just a football disease. You go to any big arena now, they've got you. You're in an enclosed space, you know, and you take your chance. If you want to drink, you know you're going to have to pay that price. You can't get away from it, can you?
That price you just said there, if you look at the Diet Coke, I mean, you know, a lot of lads will drive down to West Ham or drive down to Tottenham, and they'll drive, you know, so they'll have a pint of Coke. You know, like you're talking tomorrow at Brighton, the temperature's predicted 32 degrees. I mean, you'd be, you know, you'll be sweating like a guilty man in an ID parade. You'll be like dripping, and then you think, well, I'll have a pint of Diet Coke, £8.40. You know, so what they're talking about now is they're talking about Chelsea's going to be the first club. It's nailed on with this Todd Bowley gun. He's going to be the first club that has the £20 pint. And I mean, like, you know, I think the world you for, but I'd become Joe Walker. There's no way I'd buy you a pint at that kind of money. I just dip out. But like, you know, like when you're seeing £7.50 for a beer, and when you think of that, I mean, if you're having a good away day, that's £60 for your drink, 8 pints. You know, like £60. It's bam pot. It's absolutely crazy, and it's coming. It is coming. And what I hope that when that comes, people stay out the ground longer. I really do. I'm not a militant or anything, but why should people go in? You know, the tickets, like in Newcastle, the tickets will be that price because there's 30,000 trying to get in. You know, they can't get in. So you'll always pay the price to get into the ground. But if Newcastle followed suit and started coming up with £10 a pint and stuff like that, well, like I tell you what, I'd buy off a bottle bank outside the ground, mate. Like, just stand and have the crap with a bottle.
Yeah, for me, it's ludicrous. But I don't spend those prices in the bar. I mean, I don't drink when I go to the games anyway. Like home or away, maybe have a couple after the match on a home game. But going away, it's pointless. Joe, what are your views on that? I mean, it's an expensive deal already without spending those prices. And like I've already pointed out, you know, it's in a plastic glass. You're hardly in you're in a confined space. Odds are you're either going to get knocked and spilled or, you know, it's not great, is it? And for £7.20 a pint.
You had to bring up the price of beer when Daft Lad sat next to me, didn't you? Yeah, it's an interesting one though, isn't it? Because, and I'll tell you for why. There's a reason that these clubs are able to go out and spend big money. There's a reason that these clubs are able to go out and kind of upgrade their stadiums and do all this stuff. And part of the reason is the amount of money that fans spend per game. And you know what? Yeah, I mean, paying £7. I'm from Middlesbrough. I mean, £7 for a pint, that's a scandal. But actually, if I was to think that if in the 1892 they stuck another 50 pence on, or and it meant that the ground was going to be upgraded, or we were going to sign better players, or it was going to bring in more commercial revenue, selling better beer and stuff like that. That's the price of the game, isn't it? And we've got to go with it, chaps. I'd like to know what that's like in relation to the price of a pint in the pub outside, because that's just probably London prices, I'm guessing. But I think there's a time where, we've look at the hoo-ha that the fan base went through with the prices for the pre-season friendlies. The fan base went nuts. I can't believe you're charging that. It's ridiculous. But how are we going to have this massively successful, commercially viable, fantastic, progressive football club if the fans don't pay for it? We're going to have to go with the club. So yeah, £7 for a pint is a disgrace. £2.50 for a packet of crisps, no chance. But if you want to be Real Madrid, you've got to pay Real Madrid prices. It's as simple as that.
Steve, what's your views on pricing? It's just going up and up, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But, I mean, Joe, you just said there, if it's a price worth paying for the upgrade of the ground, you're paying Sodexo the money. You pay for a pint. Sodexo taking the profit at Newcastle United at the minute. Interesting that we're looking for a new commercial department to be set up. Maybe it's the first thing the commercial department are going to start to do is to start looking at the revenue streams and thinking, hang on, we want that. Because let's face it, what Mike Ashley did was he like the bomb pot he just said, just give us the money now and you can have anything. And, you can have all the profits. You can have all the profits and pies, all the profit that. The quality of the drink went down. The service is shocking. They've got 16-year-old kids who don't even know how to pour a pint. You ask them a question, it takes 3 of them gathering together to try and concoct an answer. And I'll give you another example. I was talking to someone midweek who was at a friendly game, and the lager went off, and there was nobody behind the bar that knew how to change the keg. So he offered to do it himself, and they took him to the cellar room, and he changed the keg for them. And there wasn't a manager in sight working for Sodexo, who are the caterers in that particular part of the ground, who could be called upon. They'd just done a runner. So you've got these 6-year-old kids going, I don't know how to change it. I don't know what to do. And I'll come and do it. Show us where it is. All right. I opened the door, took them in, changed the pumps for them, changed the keg over. That's what it was like, And to be perfectly honest, the service is no better. The service is no better now than it was in Mike Ashley's time. The place might look nice. The 1892 has had nothing done to it. I think they got some like sort of fancy chalkboards around the entrance to the cafeteria part. We know there's nothing happening in the Platinum Club because we're in there for the 2 friendlies.
No, at all.
Price have gone up.
It's like you're back at the bar stage, like a shuffling competition.
Well, and the service. I mean, dear me,
it's horrendous.
You stand there, you ask for a pint, you ask for 2. You can guarantee that she's going to walk at least 15 places further along to go and pour your pint for you. Then she's going to come back, and then she's going to go and do the gin and tonic that you want. Then she's going to go at the other end of the bar and find the ice again, and so it goes on. I think it took 9 minutes to get a pint at half time in the 1892. 9 minutes, which leaves you 6 minutes to high it down your neck. It's the fizziest lager you've ever known, which is impossible to hide down your neck. No word of a lie, So, but I mean, it's £5 for a pint in a strawberry. It's £4 for a pint in the Irish Centre. I think it was £2.80 for a pint of Coke in the Black and White Bull. That's the sort of prices we've got outside for soft drinks and for lager, and it's decent lager. Madri or Heineken or something like that. We're drinking Coors, I started to a lad who just come back from America. They were paying $12 a pint, which with the exchange rate as it is at the moment is just short of 10 quid, which is hovering into the Dubai prices, Mitch.
I was going to say that.
This is cheaper than that in Dubai.
If Neil's like looks at the prices, there's something's coming. I read something last week where when you think what you pay, Neil, and you think of what's coming, and when we were talking when you were over, you were having a pint and that, and we were talking about that. They reckon that Chelsea have got the biggest spend per fan at a football match. So at the minute, Chelsea spend the average. Man, you've got to take in this as corporate hospitality, everything. So when you divide it through the number of people at the gate, they spend £1,600 per person per game. So if they have 40,000 fans, it's 40,000 times 1,600. Newcastle's 400. We're a quarter of Chelsea's. So Joe's just made a great point. Joe said, if you want the team, you're going to have to pay it. I agree with your sentiment, Joe, but I don't think it's a case. I don't think we ever could. I don't think we could increase our spend fourfold. So I think if you go to the game, and let's suppose it costs you 85 quid for your ticket and a few pints, or suppose it's 100 quid, I don't think you could go and say, well, I've just spent 400 quid to go on the match. Because I think people then, our fan base couldn't stomach it. I know that the corporate hospitality is going to drag it up. And I know, that whole thing will lift ours. But I think if we got to half of that, our average spend was 800 per fan from 400, it doubled. I think that's us. And I don't think we'll get our money or our growth or squeeze up the Real Madrid by us spending 4 times what we spend. I think we'll do it through sponsorships.
Fan spend does not have the same impact on the accounts as it used to. That's quite
bang on. Bang on now.
In terms of that. However, if you want to look at other metrics, Arsenal became the first team to do £1 million on a match day when they moved to the Emirates. And that's now the new benchmark. That's what people want to be doing.
Yeah.
It was very interesting this weekend actually seeing my timeline, because obviously being out here I've got friends from lots of different teams, and and he even had people who were at Doncaster making the same complaints. The bottle of Coke there was £3. Still outrageous, really, for Doncaster. And they apparently had also ran out of all hot food by half time. Complained about the service, and you just. It was at all levels, and it was at other sporting events as well. Somebody's mentioned there, and I've seen it at one of the big race meetings recently, a £5 for a 99 from the ice cream van, and somebody was saying they've just done the same at the Commonwealth Games. And the problem at events like this is that they've got a captive audience and they know it. And therefore, they can almost take the piss a little bit with what they're pricing. But it goes back to something that me and my dad have spoke about on the various shows over time. When we first started coming as a group, when we had the new ground built and we went into the bar in 1992, there was about 12 to 13 of us all had seats together, would go in early to watch the game before our game on the telly. And if there was a game after, we would all stay after and watch the game on the telly in the bar. Because the food was done quite well and it was worth having. And some of we would have food when we got there, and some of we would have food while we were watching the second game after. And after Ashley took over and handed everything across to Sodexo and changed the way it worked, and the quality dropped and the price went up, we actually stopped. We migrated back to the pub. We just stopped hanging around. And so we need a way to regenerate that desire as the fans to stay within the ground. You need to be encouraged to say, don't spend your money in the strawberry, don't spend your money in the black and white bull, don't spend your money in the town centre. Get yourself early to the ground, come and have a pint with her, come and have some good food with her, and have it at a decent price. And then you got more people spending per head in the ground. And yes, it's not going to make the difference between the signing, a Brazilian striker or somebody from Division 2. That it's not going to make that kind of difference. That doesn't make fan spend doesn't make that impact on the accounts anymore. But also in a cumulative way, every little bit helps, particularly in this era where everything seems to be under scrutiny for us under FFP harder than so many other people.
Yeah,
that every extra penny we can get putting through as a fan base, as customers, we are that as well. And I think something that really does need tweaked a lot, because I certainly coming back didn't see a lot of difference in the levels of customer service within the ground. I couldn't even claim me winnings back off me bet because I didn't have a UK debit card and I don't have an account that I can claim it back into. So I just give it to my dad. So he's had a little touch the weekend. These kind of things. Nobody points this out when you haven't put the bet on. And so it's like, well, brilliant, we need to be looking at levels of customer service that go above and beyond, because the crowd we have now coming isn't the ones like us where we stood on the Gallagher Terrace with somebody pissing in your mate's pocket. It's a different level of customer service that's demanded now, and that's the only way you're going to get spends. But then there is also this sort of almost this tipping point about, well, how far can you push the price of a pint? How high dare we take it before people stop buying it? Because I'm quite sure at the London Stadium they'll have done some sort of analytics to say, yeah, we can just about get away with charging this, because when people are here and they fancy a pint, well, they've got no bloody choice, have they?
Yeah. But you know what the other thing is, when you were sitting in the 1892 and you're having a meal or a bite to eat before the game, now you're sitting in the 1892, you can guarantee that the table you're sitting on will probably be covered in tomato sauce from the person who has plunked down what's left of the chips that they haven't eaten or the kid hasn't eaten. The place is scruffy. There's nobody comes and clears the table. It's up to you if you find an empty table to go and then clear that table and clear it off. I don't know whether anybody has ever got in late. Let's say you got in 5 minutes after the start of the game, as happened to me on a couple of occasions last season. And the first thing you notice as you walk in is that they're already pouring the pints for half time. So you've ordered your pint and there's a table laid out and there's a little nameplate there. Somebody's written a name on, they put the sticker on it. and they're already pouring. So those pints are being poured at 3:05, right? You're coming out at what, 10:02, the chances are. By the time you get through the crowd, it's going to be 5:02. So you're talking about a pint that's been standing there for upwards possibly of what, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and you've just paid potentially £7.50 for, you know. It's that whole experience, and it's just, I've said this till I'm blue in the face in the pub before. When Amanda took on the role, and the first thing she did was she said it was like the old, it was like Mr. Grace, old Mr. Grace from the store. It was like, you've all done very well, well done, you know. And so what happens for the next 9 months? Those people who are doing shit with Ashley and treating us like dogs, thought that's the way to do it. So that's the way I'm going to carry on. And that's the service that I'm going to carry on providing, whether I'm in the ticket office or whether I'm a steward or whether I'm providing the catering. I'm a catering manager who caters for nothing except myself and my own job. And whether I'm the person who runs the shop, you know, as we saw on Twitter the other day, where somebody rang up and said, I bought this shirt online. You've sent us the wrong shirt, the wrong size. Can I bring it back? And will you exchange it? And what he was told by the person in the shop was, yeah, you can bring it back. I've got no guarantee I'll swap it for you, though. And you're going, what? What sort of service is that? Do the people running Newcastle United now realise what's been done in their name? I wonder, because it's going to be quite a culture shock when it all comes. I mean, the state of the Castori contract and what's happened there is a prime example of how the it's like that. It's saying nothing. There's nothing being said by anybody about that. No, you can go onto social media as a director, and you can praise to the high heaven, and you can have a chat with your other director on social media and take all the praise. But nobody in that club at any level has made any comment about the crap service that they've given us supporters when it comes to that store, when it comes to the absolute shambles of what they've done on the online shopping facility, where people who ordered in June are still waiting, where people are being sent goods that are the wrong size, where they're being sent out with expensive gear, by the way, with the logos over here instead of in the middle, all of that type of thing. Nobody's taking ownership of it. It's an absolute shambles, you know. And
it's why people are turning to places like DH Gate and God knows what, you know what I mean? And there are other snide operators out there.
But if we're talking about the club getting that commercial activity right and bringing in money that's generated from us fans, they're going the wrong way about it at the moment.
Certainly, it's something which needs to be addressed. That again, I thought maybe there would have been an appointment of a fans liaison officer by now. I thought that would have been something which should have been done. Maybe that's in hand. Who knows? And maybe it's something that the trust should be addressing. You know what I mean? That's one thing that the trust should be looking at. Get your complaints in about that, but again, I just hope that that they can sort it out, and it's not we don't have more lip service and that kind of thing, because we had that with previous owners, and we know where that leads. And befriending fans and getting involved with certain fan groups, alienating others. I'm afraid all of that just leads to trouble. So we've just got to hope that that lesson has been learned, and it's something they're addressing. And I think that could be the remit of a new fans liaison officer. We will wait and see. Of course, we're more concerned about what goes on the pitch. And, we want to make sure that things, the bigger jobs are fitted first. And, they're going about the right way on that. Anyway, we're an hour into the show, which means, as always, I must give a shout out to our sponsors. A big thank you to the guys at Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. You can find them on Durham Road in Gateshead, Old Durham Road. You can phone them 478-2730, or you can email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. The website is www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks also to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.gohd.com. You can find them on Nunn Street in Newcastle. And thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. And you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk or by calling 01768 210 102. Thanks to Away Day Clothing, and thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. Thanks also to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wales and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website. If you want to subscribe, hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up under the video to like it. Very easy to do that, and it helps us along the way. And, of course, click share, like Paul Gallant in the chat does every time he pops on. Share it to your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, wherever, and try and help us build this community. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show is finished. If you want to join us on NUFC Matters, you can either click join and join as a YouTube member, or you can join as a cult member by going to the website, nufcmatters.com, paying a one-off fee and getting a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, and entry into the monthly draw, and a big monthly draw coming up over the next week or so. And we've also got a QR code, so if you've got one of those fancy smartphones and have moved on from a Nokia brick, then you can put your smartphone camera over that and it will take you straight there. We also give you something for note. We give you a car window sticker. You just need to email john@nufcmatters.com to claim it. No home game this week, so please give generously to the food bank, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The match day bucket is virtual and you can make a donation all year round. Don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School is still running through August. Find some more information on that at peterbeardsleysoccerschool.com. And just want to point out as well that we have got the food bank t-shirt up and running. Not want to miss an opportunity. John has got his Burger King Nick Pope Toon Poles t-shirt up there, and that will be up for a week. Get bidding at Steve Wraith on Twitter, and you can potentially win that t-shirt and donate to a good cause. Okay, QTech do have their monthly draw as well, where we give you a clue each week. You jot the answers down, and then when it gets to week 4, you have a question, and the first person in the chat will win a signed Peter Beardsley Entertainers t-shirt, which will be nice little one for your collection if you collect shirts. So your first clue is this. Zazon. Is that the correct pronunciation? God knows. But that's what it reads. Zazon. So that's your first clue. Thank you to John and QTech, as always, for sorting out the prize. Okay, time for Tweet of the Week. Inundated, as always, with your kind suggestions. This one was from Andrew Malloy. Pretty little thing. Netflix has announced a new dating show called Dating and Related. Andrew said it was just like a normal weekend in Sunderland. And this one from Anthony Lewins. This might have been the two lads that Keith was talking about earlier. The two guys who travel all over the place. And is that them, Keith?
I didn't have my eyes on that good. No,
Anthony Lewins, great seeing you both yesterday. How were the lads? He obviously bumped into Mitch and into Stu, but good to see the lads getting about. That one from Rob Vasey was one of a few of these things kicking around on Twitter. Messed up, should have gone to the tunes, says Jesse Lingard, as he watches Fabian Scher milk the applause. I love this one from Keith Gray. This was absolutely fantastic. Not sure if people know people there, but wonderful. Top effort by NUFC. Dad couldn't be there, it's fragile, so Woody Gray was there. She's still smiling today. NUFC going in the right direction. Lovely photo of that, and thanks for sending that in. Brilliant. Woody. This one was doing the rounds on social media. Lots of people sent us this one. When unveiling your club's new signing wearing your new away shirt, always check the background first. Yes. Picture makes tells a thousand stories there. Okay, the next one was this one. NUFC Tune Talk on Instagram. It's Fabi and Cher, not Fabi and Shaw. Very clever. Thanks to Zara for sending that one in. This one, whenever United struggle, I can't help but laugh at the thought of the dozens of lads in my year at school back in the day who supported them because they won every week and lodged it every Monday, who are now trapped in long-term misery spiral entirely of their own making. Brilliant, that one. Absolutely brilliant. This one, Fuming, we're delighted to confirm the signing of Hamza Chowdhury on a season-long loan from Leicester City with an option to buy. Yes, and those were the days, mate. Those were the days. And this one, need a crafting project idea for the summer holidays that's completely cost-free. Me and the Bens have been collecting pubic hair from urinals at the local working men's club. And in one fairly relaxed afternoon session, we've completed this delightful decapitated dog's head. I had to double check that, Keith. I thought it was a lookalike. Avash. Heard people won't be able to register their marriage though. Barcelona are allowing fans to get married at the new camp. Yeah, very good.
Excellent, that one.
It was.
Poor Hayes, he's now being compared to the man's urinal. Oh,
He's not. No, this is tweet of the week, man. That's the next.
Right.
You've gone off half-cocked, man, Keith.
Picking the 3 p.m. kickoffs is to be Newcastle versus 46 new players who've barely just met. Just in reference to Forest, of course. This was good by Newcastle's official Twitter and absolutely stunning. And the strike wasn't too bad either. I'm wondering which female member of staff had her fingers on the official.
Maybe the new fans' ears are not so there.
Well, yeah, might be. Who was Jude Smith? We profile NUFC soon to be later signing. Callie Mag says now we're just picking players to fit the songs. A fly just got between my eye and sunglasses. Never had that happen before. We both panicked. Hashtag FTM. This one from Jack Stevenson. Toon, you are so lucky to have Amanda Stabley. This wonderful lady is dedicated to the cause, treats everyone she meets with so much kindness, totally gets what Newcastle's all about. I'm a Cockney. I have no right to have that opinion, but I have to say it as I say it, you have a great future. Jack, I've met Jack on numerous occasions, big Arsenal fan. Nice of him to say that. Arsenal signing for Vieira, Arsenal singing for Vieira, Chelsea singing for Lampard. Got to be the worst feeling for opposition fans, no doubt about that. This one Keith was referring to as well. I really enjoyed it. The atmosphere was amazing. I got a lot done during the game. I finished the last Harry Potter book, did the weekly online food shop. Luckily, Eddie gave me his iPad at half time, so I finished the last episode of Stranger Things. As far as debuts go, I couldn't be happier. Nick Pope discussing his debut, of course, in the 2-0 win last weekend. And Dolphin Pilot, outsmarted that Detective Columbo. Dude has no idea I'm the murderer. He's just got one more question for me, then I'm off the hook. Thanks for that one, Zara. And this one from Steve Brackley Mag. Tesco are straight to the point about their toilet tissue. £1, but underneath you can see there 8.4 pence per shit. This one from Stephen Kennedy on Facebook, on our Facebook group. Don't forget, get yourself across to our Facebook group and join. I see Primark are have special labels fitted in their children's range for sales in their Sunderland store. We're not going to make it, are we? Remove child before washing. And this one. The note from Lingard to Jack Colback was that. And this one as well. Ben Jacobs of this parish. Manchester United have been booed off and 100% of the halves played this season. Peter Guy, thanks for highlighting that one. This one, how bad things have to be before both of these to be in town. Scooby-Doo's van and the Ghostbusters, of course. Thank you for that, Ian. And this one was from Stu. Shark spotted off the coast of Sunderland. And this one was from Wayne. Shaking hands with players better than Bruno. None, obviously. I've got a couple of musical ones in the last 3 or 4 here. This one, once upon a time, I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart. There's nothing I can do. Turtle eclipse
of the
the
heart.
heart.
Yeah,
Very good. Very good, Ian. I like that one.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give this one a plug as well. James Muddyman stuck this on our Facebook group. Wonderful picture of St. James's Park, a more modern take of St. James's Park. £15 for A3 sizes. jkmartwork.com is the place to go to if you want to have a look.
Like that.
It's very good. It's bright. There's a lot of these things that are done at dark and they're at night, and that's just a more modern take. I really do like it. So, yeah, have a pop on there. I don't know the guy, but he posted on our group, so I thought I would share it. Stephen Kennedy as well says, when you hire a Mackham tradesman, I think they meant a date installed on the ceiling. And this one, what did you have as a teenager that you don't have now? Chris Jackson, who's a great lad from Inside Output. Proper journalism, not this rubbish. Well said, mate. I did find this as well. This wasn't a tweet. This is just something that I get these. You get these emails from The Athletic. Nick Pope actually owns the Bootham Crescent goalposts. So yeah, he's got to find a house with a half decent garden. Otherwise, he's going to have nowhere to put them. This is after he spent time on loan at York City from Charlton in 2013 and 14. And when the club moved to the new ground, they sold the keepsakes and he bought the goalposts. Fascinating, that. So I hope he gets his wish. This one, JJ, here's my contribution to the discourse. I don't like working from home. I don't like working from the office. I'd suggest he potentially doesn't like working. Tweet of the week this week was this one. I did say it would finish on a musical one. Fergal Sharkey said, my energy company just offered me a fixed price deal of £7,844.96 for 12 months. £784.96 for 12 months worth of gas and electricity. So Coin Moriton then puts, have you considered converting to a solid fuel system? But then again, a good half these days is hard to find. That definitely was tweet of the week. Brilliant stuff. Keep them coming in. It was a little bit longer than normal, but I make no apologies for that. Brilliant stuff. Thanks to everybody who chipped in. Did also get sent this Premier League official contract. Failing to comply with these rules could result in breakup. Firstly, from August to May, the TV is mine at all times. 2, walking in front of the TV at any time is strictly forbidden. 3, the replays of goals are very important. I don't care if I've seen them already. I want to see them again. 4, if, when my team lose, do not say it's only a game, get over it, and they'll win next time. 5, all love and affection must wait until half time or when the games have finished. 6, any other events that occur during the Premier League season must be discussed and arranged accordingly. 7, do not ask what the offside rule is. And finally, point 8, do not question why I'm watching Match of the Day if I watched the game earlier that day. That's a unisex Premier League announcement from NUFC Matters. Fantastic. Thank you for sending me that. Let's talk about Eddie Howe again, Keith. We like to praise him. We like to speak about him. The Kevin Keegan situation is mentioned again today. And he's had the players watching old games and learning the history of Newcastle United, in particular the entertainers. And again, reading between the lines and listening to what he says, it sounds as if Kevin Keegan at some point will probably come in and have a chat with the squad. Is this good man management by Eddie Howe, do you think?
I think any involvement that anybody makes in Newcastle that includes Kevin Keegan is a wise choice. He's total, absolute one-off. And you can mention anybody at the club now, and nobody now, no living person now, has the charisma or, I don't know, the credibility that Keegan has. He's still God in Newcastle, and for me, always will be. He's the most impressive person I've ever seen come to Newcastle from nowhere and make something happen. You know, he didn't come to something that had been there. He came to something that was broken, and he instilled culture and mindset. And when you, like you said the other week, Steve, when you went to Maiden Castle, I mean, I took my daughter there, and she was, I think, 3-year-old, and I put a top on her. It was like a dress, and I turned around. She ran on the pitch, and Keegan stopped the game. He stopped the game. Rob Lee, they were all in among it, and they like, you know, I went running on, and they were talking to her. Do you know what I mean? And they just had such, for somebody to openly allow people to see you train and not worry about what people are watching or who was in the crowd or who was spying. Keegan's whole outlook, his whole attitude was, if they score 3, we'll score 4. And players at the time said they didn't talk much about the opposition, just talked about these people. And I think if Eddie Howe's taken that on board, he seems as though, I'm going back to something Sean Longstaff said. He said, if Eddie Howe asked us to do anything, I would do it. And I think Eddie Howe's got some of Keegan's traits, but you can never, ever, while Kevin Keegan's alive, bypass or ignore what more he could show you. And I just think Eddie Howe's come over as a wise man. I think Eddie Howe's got a lot more backbone, a lot more steel than people give him credit for. And if he can get more guidance from somebody who is a messiah, he's absolutely legendary, Kevin Keegan. You know, I couldn't speak too loudly of him. And if Eddie Howe's dialed into that, wise man Eddie Howe.
Yeah, Joe, it's great to see Keegan being, you know, mentioned again and again. I mean, you know, I think a lot of us feel it would be nice to have, you know, Kevin involved, you know, with the club in some capacity. But, you know, Eddie Howe, certainly putting him on a pedestal and using historical games to get the players to understand where the club has come from and where he wants the club to go it's great man management, isn't it?
It is, Stephen. It's simple, really, isn't it? It's an absolute no-brainer. And Keegan's not the only one, you know. I know. Often he's described as our messiah and the main man. But you know, we talk about people like Peter Beardsley, for example. We talk about people like Alan Shearer, you know, coming back to the club. It's absolute no-brainer. But you know, to think that, I mean, for my lifetime, this was the best that I've ever felt following Newcastle United under those Keegan years. You know, he was a gentleman, but you know, he had this Midas touch. I think he'd be the first to say he wasn't the greatest tactical genius in the world, but all of our players had smiles on their faces. You know, Asprilla, Ginola, Shearer, I mean, Robert Lee. What a time it was! It was absolutely magic. And do you know what? If our football club gets anywhere back to that, and I know we kind of felt it a little bit under Sir Bobby, you know, particularly in that Champions League run, we're in absolute dreamland. And it's funny, you know, one of the things that I said we were having a conversation with some people who follow matters on Saturday, and a guy pointed out his son, and I just thought to myself, what a time to be that old! What a time to be that old again, because I remember being that old, and I remember that this was just an absolute fairy tale football club. So, yeah, I'm sure Keegan's modest enough not to kind of come diving in and elbow Eddie out the way and say, right, you know, I'll give you the speech. But you know, the fact that Eddie Howe's tapped into it, the fact that Eddie Howe's aware of the history, you know. Could you have seen Ruud Gullit doing this, for example? Could you have seen Graham Souness saying, actually, you know, let's think about some of the good old days? Absolutely not. So, yeah, it's a bit of a simple one. It's up there for me with kind of moving Shearer back into the ground and changing the name of the bar and stuff. We talked about it all summer, haven't we? There's some really quick wins for Newcastle United. And one of the quickest and biggest wins that you'll get is involving Kevin Keegan. So, what more can we say? That, you know, we run out of superlatives when we talk about him. It'd be great to have him back around the club. We talked earlier about match day experience and stuff. Wouldn't it be great for people to kind of walk into the Platinum Club and there's Kevin Keegan, you know, for example. So yeah, let's see a bit more of him. And if he can, you know, if we can emulate half of what that fella done and get the football club to halfway where it was, particularly in the mid-90s, absolutely bring it on.
Knowing Keegan how I do and having worked with him on many occasions, Steve, he wouldn't just be in the Platinum Club. Kevin would want to go and see all 52,000 if he could fit them all in on the same day. That's just him. And I don't mean standing in the middle of the pitch and addressing them by a microphone. Kevin's the kind of person who would walk through every level to go and see everybody, and he'd be there till midnight.
Hey, there's one way of getting people into the ground early.
Yeah, true.
That's what we're talking about,
20 pound a pound sounds like a bargain, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Watching old games, does that mean we're suddenly going to see Fabian Shaw trying to chip goalkeepers rather than just blast the ball in like he did on Saturday? We'll see the influence coming up. We might see ASM getting to the byline, and we might see him crossing like Ginola did, or we might see him getting the ball, bringing it down with his back to goal, turning and hitting shots like Ginola did. We might see Willock suddenly developing into a Peter Bielsa in the centre of midfield. It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? But honestly, that's the sort of thing. Players, we'll go on about that era, but it was a golden era. Yes, we didn't win anything, but that wasn't the point of the entertainers. The point of the entertainers, well, they were entertaining us, and we went there every game, hoping to see performance, came away having seen performances, and we saw some fantastic footballers. We saw some bargains like Rob Lee being picked up for £750,000 and suddenly Keegan's catapulted him into the England team. We saw Steve Howie, who ended up going to Manchester City, who got into the Euro 96 squad and then unfortunately got injured. We saw John Beresford, a player who was thrown out of an opportunity to sign for Liverpool, who Keegan picked up and told him that his injury wasn't as bad as Liverpool's doctors were making out, and brought him and what a fantastic left back he was. This is what Keegan could do, but at the same time he could spot what bringing in Peter Beardsley into his squad would do in the latter stage of his career. He could spot what was needed, that gem of Alan Shearer, and he could convince a board why they had to break a world record to get him. That's what Kevin Keegan brought, and he brought and so much more, and so much more. And if that sort of influence and can rub off on the players of the current squad and rub off on Eddie Howe and his coaching team, and realise that you can do anything if you've got the mindset and you've got the ability. You can do anything, and you can. Keegan could convince you of anything during that era. If you met Kevin Keegan before a game, he would convince you that where this club was heading. And I think that Eddie Howe, and this is the intelligence we're talking about, and this is what's great. And Bill Corcoran has gone on for years that teaching the players the history of Newcastle United when they sign. He wanted to have a course, he wanted to have a session, and he wanted to teach these players what the Northeast was about, where they were coming to live, what the history of the Northeast is, not just the football history, but the cultural history, and what the region means to us, and what the region should mean to them, because they're coming here to be part of it. And it was something that Bill mentioned many times to Lee Marshall as the fans liaison at that time. And it was never picked up on. It was something that perhaps maybe it was the circumstance of the time with the board, or whether people just didn't have the confidence to take that forward with the board. It was certainly talked about at fans forums, and it was talked about at meetings that I had with Lee Charnley and with Derek Lambias, where we said, you've got to start to embrace the region. You've got to start to embrace our fans properly. You embrace the fans properly, they'll give you so much more back. And they just didn't get it. And there was always a situation where you thought a lot of the stuff that you were saying never moved forward. It was just left on somebody's desk. There's going to be a cupboard opened up one day when Mirdad's done another 3 laps of the ground, and he'll come to that room, and he'll go, "What's this?" And somebody will panic, and they'll open the door, and all this paperwork will come falling out, and it'll be all the letters, it'll be all the ideas, and it'll be all the stuff that had been put through in those 14 years to the club that just got completely ignored. You know, it's got to be there because it wasn't just us. There were hundreds and hundreds of people who were writing to the club at that particular time. I never saw the bonfire, so they must have just been put into a cupboard somewhere, you know. But Keith, you summed it up. Joe, you summed it up equally as eloquently. Everything that we feel about Kevin Keegan. And Mitch is going to come on now and double it.
Yeah, Keegan is certainly somebody who Eddie Howe wants up at the training ground, Mitch. And just a little quote from Howe. He said, "It's vital, that it wasn't too deep. We just tried to educate the players on certain things we feel were really important. Yes, we celebrated some former players. And I think that that's really important as well, with always a view to the future. It's vitally important. You don't want to live in the past, but you want to respect what's gone on before to then try and create a new future here. And that is what we are trying to do. So, it's just, it's a bit of forward thinking on his behalf, I think. And, it's beneficial to those new players coming in, the likes of Botman and Bruno, for example. They can clearly see it's a special club when they see what War Flags do, for example, and the atmosphere that the crowd brings. But, to hear how neglected the fans, I guess, have been of success since, 69 and those great cup runs in the 50s will probably amaze, these players.
Yeah. And I think this is something that Eddie Howe's probably picked up during his time out when he went and looked at other clubs and other sports and it's something they do a lot in American sport with new recruits to teams is about integrating that, understanding what you're playing for and who you're playing for and why it's important and why it matters. And I think the more that we can push into the players as they come in so they understand how we as a fan base work, how the club works when it's synergy with the city and the community. It's easy for someone like Keegan. He got it from day one, but not everybody gets it. And that's when you run into your goldfish bowls and your little problems with certain players who maybe just aren't equipped to handle certain situations. But if you can give them the information and help them be better equipped in situations like that, not a problem. And that's obviously what he's trying to do, is trying to, again, put more links between the squad and the crowd, the city and the community as a whole. And following the way Keegan used to do that isn't a bad blueprint to use, is it really? And so I think that's that. You can see what he's trying to do, and I think that these are they innovative? Probably not in sport as a whole, but I bet they're pretty innovative in football. I bet there's not a lot of it happens. But we do have an unusual situation where we have this city community club synergy, and we really, really need to have it to take advantage of that as much as possible. And so by how doing stuff like this, you cannot knock it at all. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Kevin, yes, I passed on Keegan's number to me, Dad, the day after the takeover, mate, and they did speak. So, look, there has been conversations. What those conversations have been, who knows? But Kevin always has the club's best interests at heart, and I'm sure at some point, we might see him at the game. Let's hope so. It will be great to see Kevin at the game. People saying, is the kettle boiling? No, we've been away. The garden is getting watered as I speak, so that is what the horrible squeaking noise is in the background. My views on Keegan are simple. I genuinely think he should be involved with the football club. I think he'd be a great ambassador, and from my perspective, I think it would be great if there was a stand named after him or a statue put up at the ground. I think for me that should go without question. That should go without question. There should be some kind of relevant memory of Keegan at the ground, and I think he would love that. I think that would be the biggest thing that the club could do for now, and then see how things go after that. But yeah, I just think there's been nothing, Steve. You're agreeing with us there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? When Dan Ash was flying around the world trying to get players to sign, I would have Kevin Keegan alongside him in that plane, and I'd have him sitting there when the negotiations, and I would say, "I'm going to leave you with Kevin for 10 minutes. He just wants to have a quick word with you, and he's just going to explain a little bit of what you can imagine it's going to be like when you sign, and not if you sign, when you sign, because by the time Keegan finished." They would be signing for anything, God, that's the sort of thing that Kevin did. That's the charisma he's got for me, and I think that's the trick they're probably missing. An ambassador traveling around the world, representing Newcastle United, being there during the World Cup, being a representative of Newcastle United and billed as an ambassador. When Newcastle go on tours, having Kevin there and doing meet and greet with the dignitaries or with supporters, all of those type of things. That's what makes a club. That's what's special. And then tagging on ex-players with them, and maybe he's having an ex-players team that then goes on world tours and European tours and wherever the club goes. Also, because you cannot have the players playing games, but there's no reason why you couldn't have ex-players. A little knock around with to raise money for local charities wherever they happen to be training or whatever, and doing that sort of thing. They're all the exciting things that could be done in the name of Newcastle United with guys like Kevin Keegan, Peter Beardsley, Alan Shearer, Rob Lee, Les Ferdinand, although maybe Les might think second after because he's involved with another club as a director of football down at QPR. But you know what I mean. This is what it's all about. This is Newcastle United in a new era, but selling the club. This is as part of selling the club. You're selling the club's history, and you've given people that idea of what the history is about so that they can then understand what's to come and latch on and be part of it. Because then when they hold conversations with us, when they come to the games, they understand that history that bit more. Some of those Arab lads that were there on Saturday that we had conversations with who'd flown in from Saudi, they'd only seen 3 games for Newcastle United. It was only their 3rd visit to the ground. But they wanted to know about the club. They wanted to know about these ex-players. Oh, who was he? What did he do? Buy this video, see that. Go on, look on YouTube for him, And that's all part and parcel of it, Steve.
I think, Steve, when you said that, if he just did one thing, like they sometimes say, it means look at his age. I don't think he's looking for a full-time job. And if you just used him and said, I'd love to have heard Kevin Keegan have half an hour with Ekatike here. I'd like them just to talk to him, talk to him and his parents and talk about the real Newcastle. You know what I mean? Because Keegan would quickly encourage a kid of that age and that immaturity that coming to Newcastle, you'll get more game time than you would at PSG. And if he could swing an Ekatike or the next centre forward we go after, that's when he becomes priceless. All these other ideas are nice and they're noble and they're positive. But to me, Kevin Keegan has a unique skill that, we've got brilliant owners like Medad and Jamie Rubin. We've got Darren Eales now. We've got Dan Ashworth. We've got all these people. And Howe is very committed. But you still haven't got a Kevin Keegan. And you still need a Kevin Keegan to bring that charisma and that touch with the past of what Newcastle's really about that nobody's got. And I'm not being pessimistic, but one day it won't be here. If we don't dial in on it, use it, we've missed a trick.
This is why German clubs are successful. German clubs are successful when they're looking for new players, the likes of a Bayern Munich or a Dortmund, because they employ ex-players in those sort of, we call them ambassadorial roles, but they're much higher than that. And they sell the club. When players are coming to sign, they're working behind the scenes for months and months, selling the club and selling what they're going to be, what it's going to be like, and giving it. It happens at Leverkusen, it happens at Cologne, it happens at Schalke, it happens all over Germany. Dortmund. This is why this is why players sign for clubs, because they feel as though they're signing for something special. They're being sold the dream.
When you put it together, Steve, it's like people say, like people who haven't watched him or didn't see how we work. It's like the entertainers with the richest club in the world kind of synergy. So you say, you know, when Keegan was there, he took us to a level beyond a normal man's thinking. He took players beyond their capability because he made them the best they could be. But if you said you've now got, you know, a PIF-backed Kevin Keegan's entertainers, that's when nobody in the world could touch us.
Yeah.
Okay, plenty to get through in the last half hour. Time for Elliot's joke. And this week's joke: I've opened 3 birthday cards and I'm already £150 up. I love being a postman, says Elliot. Thank you, mate. Keep them coming. And we have done Elliot's dream team. It'll be coming up very shortly over the next couple of weeks. Keith, you've just put a T-shirt on. Tell us all about it.
Well, I mean, I'm an XL, but there's a guy who's desperate for
Looks
the
like right said.
So what I tell you, I look like a bodybuilder. But what it says JJ, which is Johnny Allen, John at NUFC Matters, is a baller by Peter Beasley. This is Pat O's apology. Last week, I'm a big lad. I give him some stick because he played in the Peter Beasley soccer schools, and I was talking to I sat next to Beasley at the game, and I said, "Tell us he was dog shit, please. Just tell us he was dog shit. That's all I want to hear." And he goes, no, he was a canny player. I said, "Oh, man, Peter, stop going on like that." And I couldn't get him to slag him off. He said to me, Peter said to me, he says, "Keith, you would have probably played for Newcastle, the skill you carried. John would have probably carried the sponge. But at his age now, he is a canny knockabout." He said he didn't say he was a baller, but Johnny's printed this shirt, put it on a medium, and said, "I've got to wait for the show." I can barely breathe. I feel like the Hulk burst out. But, it's a kid's mate. I was 14-year-old last time I fit in this size. I look
Fantastic.
Like
Johnny Allen's a baller. We know that, but that is a classic. Keep that on for the rest of the show. That's your punishment. Bruce Willis comparisons will be flying in for lookalikes, which we're coming to in a second. We've got a new shirt for you to win this week, signed on the new shirt, Callum Wilson. Signed shirt, $2.95 a ticket. I've just posted the link in the chat. If you want a chance of winning Callum Wilson's shirt, then get yourself involved with the football prizes raffle. The Joe Linton one was won last week. Well done to whoever won that. This is just an outside company that does this, and we team up with them once in a blue moon to do them. So good luck. Anybody who goes in, the link's in the chat. It's pinned at the top. Get yourself involved in that today. Okay, time for Tune Lookalike. Tune Lookalike, which, as you know, starts with Steve Hasty's punishment and then moves on to real lookalikes. This one, though, was sent in early doors. Bruno and Joe will not leave until a trophy is won. Brilliant. Thank you, Albert. He didn't concentrate on you straight away, Steve, for a change. He then went into overdrive with me and you, saying that no one puts Hasty in the corner. Look at this pair of asterisks. Me and you getting it in the neck there, Steve. He's got some front as our Albert. And this one, where he decided to have a laugh at all three of us. Keeping up appearances, the three Amigos launch a new drag act at the Boulevard pre-match.
God.
Then, as we know, Tom Dixon has moved into this world of alteration. So I just got this sent from Tom Dixon. And this, Tom at one point just gives in actually putting Steve Hasty's face on and just sends 3 complete strangers on the Reface app for whatever reason. He then started experimenting with dogs. I don't know what you've done to Tom. I don't know what you've done to That's a mangy looking hound. And Stephen Kennedy says, if Joe and Mr. Hasty had a love child.
Good God.
Thanks, Stephen. And Stephen Kennedy says, Mitch doing a Hasty.
Oh, right. These pictures are just nuts.
And they are. And then Stephen Kennedy says, poor Mr. Hasty getting his butt pinched by Joe. So Stephen Kennedy's had a right go at you this week on Facebook. But then anyway, we move on. Swiftly move on. Tom did rediscover his golden touch with his lookalikes, Jermaine Pennant and John Legend. Very good, Tom. And this one, Mark Hughes and is it Ailsa from Home and Away?
Yeah. That's good, that.
It is very good, Same hair. Sergio Ramos and a young Joseph Stalin.
Spot on that.
Very good, yeah. So,
these are proper lookalikes, eh?
Proper one, yeah, they are. This one is Ian Dowie and the Goonies monster.
God. You imagine Dowie's Ben looking at that. That's what my dad looks like.
That's essentially done the rounds, I think. This was a pretty good spot from Mark Byers. Welcome to Newcastle, Mark. I think he's just landed. He's touched down in the UK. Lee Ryder in the back there listening in for his next bit of breaking news. Very good, that. Yeah, it does look like Mr. Ryder sitting behind us. That one from Wayne Bennett, lookalike, War Keith and John Joe, the midfield dynamo, is nearly as quick on his feet as Mr. Patterson in getting away from around at the bar.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Listen to him. Oh, unbelievable.
Andy Ando says, my next lookalike. Yes, add that one. Mr. Van Hentog is definitely my doppelganger, it has to be said. Mind the most disturbing thing about that was to see that Steve McLaren's managed to kid a job back in football. God knows how he's managed to do that. Nice. Wayne Bennett, this was a good one as well. Liam Kennedy and Maroon 5 frontman Adam Levine. Very good lookalike. This one. From Steve Hasty. Steve, Errol Flynn. What a great photo.
Yeah.
Errol Flynn at the top. Very good. Was that yours or did somebody send you that?
No, I spotted
very
that.
Good. That's very good.
Olivier Giroud and Errol Flynn.
Excellent.
This is good. That's
what lookalikes are about, lads.
I agree, mate. I agree.
Correct. Rita Oxley says Quasimodo and Forest's manager Steve Cooper. And Fungus the Bogeyman and Mitch. Thanks, Rita. You're getting into the swing of it, Rita. Sutty, this was very good. Erling Haaland and Vigo from Ghostbusters 2.
God almighty, that's spooky.
I had to look twice as to which was which when you send that as well. 100% Mags was in this late one. Bob Grant from Jack Harper from On the Buses and Steve Hasty.
Right.
And this one from Spenny Mag. Very good. Steve McLaren and Donald Trump. And this one was good from Sooty as well. Harry Grout from Porridge and Sir John Hall. Very good. Keith got me this one. This is brilliant, by the way. So me and this guy. Tell us who this was, Keith.
That was a bloke who was on the chase on Thursday night. And he was the first one up, and he got $3,000. He took the chaser on for $3,000. He went out first round. But we sat looking at it, I said, if somebody said Steve Wraith's gone on the chase, I would have believed it. And he had loads of mannerisms as well. So there was some better pictures, but it was
very good. Very good. Okay, that wasn't the winner this week. The winner was this one: Alan Hall, Joe Wicks, and Chelsea's new signing Cucurella from Brighton. Very good, that.
Very good. Brilliant. Yeah.
Really good, mate. Really good.
Aye.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Yeah. Keep them coming in. You know where to send them to. Send them to me. Send them to Steve, Mitch, or Keith, and we will get them on the show. That is your two lookalikes for this week. Okay, Newcastle United are away at Brighton this weekend. Keith Patterson's off on his travels early morning, and time for Toon Stato to give us a little bit of insight into what we can expect.
Hello lads, greetings from the Bulgarian seaside. Brighton away tomorrow. I'll start with a couple of very, very impressive stats. Since the beginning of the calendar year 2022, only 3 clubs have more points than Newcastle in the Premier League: Liverpool, Man City and Tottenham, in that order. However, since April this year, only 3 teams have more points than Brighton: Man City, Liverpool and Tottenham. in that order. So for sure we have a very entertaining game on Saturday. Now in the Premier League, Newcastle recorded their first win against Brighton only in March this year, and we don't have a win at Brighton at the Amex Stadium. In 5 games we have lost 2 and drawn 3. We haven't beaten them away since the season in the Championship and that famous Mo Diame goal. If Newcastle, however, win on Saturday, it will be only the first time that Newcastle records 2 wins in their first 2 games since 1997, when we won against Sheffield Wednesday and Aston Villa at home. If you want a back-to-back home and away wins at the start of a season, you have to go back to 95 and the great entertainers team when we won home to Coventry and away to Bolton. Last but not least, we have Callum Wilson scoring in the first 3 opening games of the season, becoming the first player since Shearer to do this. Let's see if he can continue this on Saturday. As I said, it's going to be a very, very entertaining game. Brighton have lost only 1 in their last 10 Premier League games away to Man City. Let's see what will happen on Saturday.
Great stuff as always from Andre. Gutted I missed him last week. Caught up with the lads from Loaded, which was great, but gutted I missed Andre. Next time, my friend, maybe see you at the away game. But yeah, Newcastle at the Amex Stadium, 3 o'clock kickoff. No TV coverage of this game, of course. The away end is full as usual. 3,100 places have sold out. This is the first return to Brighton, of course, for Dan Burn and Dan Ashworth. Of course, so some nice pleasantries I'm sure will be exchanged before we get down to business. There has been a weather warning set for anybody who's travelling down to the Amex, so you need to get some cream on your napper, Keith. 32 degrees at kick-off, mate. I'd make sure you got undercover and a hat before the game. As for the team, well, obviously John Joe Shelby is out for an estimated 3 months. There is no news at this moment in time on Javier Manquillo, Jamal Lewis and Federico Fernandez coming back into the team, although they are back in training. There's also a question mark over our captain, Jamal Lascelles, after he dropped out of the squad last weekend. There was also an absence of Emil Kraft. That hasn't been explained anywhere at all, though. Referee is Graham Scott. Last time we saw him was in the final game, of Mike Ashley's reign at the club. The 2-1 defeat at Wolves in October 2021. And VAR, which is, of course, often switched off. In Newcastle's case, is Craig Pawson. So we've had him here all night, but we still like to play his little intro because he gets upset if we don't. And before you start your piece, Toon Tipster, Toon 20 makes a valid point, and I will forget, there is the train strike tomorrow, so make sure that, you've made alternative arrangements. If you're planning on going by train, well, you can't because the drivers are on strike. So yeah, it is a bit awkward to get to. Okay, Joe, over to you, my friend.
I feel sorry for them poor buggers that were driving. Imagine driving to Brighton with Patterson in the back. Jesus. So I'll get on with the prices. Brighton are favourites for the game at 29-20. The draw, which a lot of people have been talking about for the majority of the week, is 11-5. And if you fancy Newcastle to make it 2-2, Newcastle are 2-1. Both teams to score is really well fancied at 4-5. I'll start with Brighton, 1-0, 7-1. If you fancy a draw, 1-all is 11-2, and 2-all is 16-1. If you think Newcastle will nip it 1-0, you can get 9-1. If you think it'll be 2-0, it's 16-1, and we'll stick a 28-1 in there for Stewie Penman's 3-1. Callum Wilson is favourite to score any time in the game, followed by a quad of Brighton players, including the dangerous Maupay and Danny Welbeck. Alan Saint-Maximin's took his place in the book like he did all last season at 4-1, and bar the rest. In terms of the food bank, We put £10 in there last week, thanks to Callum Wilson getting on the score sheet at evens. And this week, his price is 9-4, which will hopefully bring in about 16.5 quid to give us a decent start to the season. I'm going to stick with my big Joe card bet. He never broke sweat last week, but I think there'll be a bit more going on in the middle this weekend. That's 3-1 if you think Joe Linton's going to get booked. In terms of the Toon Tickle, I wasn't going to bother this season, but I do fancy that every game in the Premier League starting on Saturday lunchtime all the way through to Monday night will have over 1.5 goals in it. And if you fancy that, you can get a reasonable 9-1. Additionally, though, for this section of the show now, we can talk about the Super Six. It is open for predictions for those who are playing, and you can make your predictions up until kick-off tomorrow. But if I was you, I wouldn't wait, and I'd get them scores locked in. Big shout out this week to Tipping Point's worst ever contestant, Steve Wilkinson, who topped the table after week 1 with an impressive 17 points. 91 people have signed up to the league, which is absolutely fantastic. And don't forget Johnny Allen, who is a baller, by the way. And Patterson, there's more to that story than you've let on there. Johnny Allen told me that Beardsley put you right in your place.
What a load of rubbish.
I think Steve Hasty paid witness to it as well. So, but we'll move on. He
wasn't there. Steve Hasty wasn't there.
91 people. He was outside the Strawberry when you were drunk. 91 people in the league. And don't forget, you can join any time you like. You haven't missed the boat just because the season started. You can be in with a shout of the monthly NUFC Matters cash prize and the T-shirt that will arrive 8 months late and in a worse state than a Castoria away shirt, courtesy of Johnny One Arm. You can see the sizes available there on Patterson. What did you say you were? An XL? You were an XL about 35 years ago.
You were triple XL, son.
I am. In Castoria, I'm 4. So please gamble responsibly, guys. Looking at what Newcastle done last week, I'd be loath to put money on them, and I hate saying that. I do think the draw, I think there's a lot of value in the draw. So watch what you're doing, bet safe, and good luck in the Super 6, Stevie 6 points.
Good stuff. Excellent, Joe. Thanks for doing that. And as he says, please bet safely. Let's go around the table then. Keith, prediction for tomorrow. What are you expecting at Brighton? It's a tougher game.
My heart is saying 2-1, but my head is what I wanted. That's my vote. My vote is it's 1-1. I've got to be honest, I think 1-1 would be a great result. Any team that can lose Dan Burn out the centre backs and then have that run you've talked about, like 10 games and only beat by Man City, is a bit special. And I think it's a message of what's to come by bringing Dan Ashworth in. I think he's been significant in building Brighton to what they are. They're not like a bottom half team like we were last season. We for 10 years plus has been a bottom half team. But Brighton are now just behind the big 6. They're up there. They'll challenge anyone from West Ham, the Villas, the Wolves, all them sides. I think Brighton's probably the pick of them. I think they're better organised. So 1-1 will be a great result tomorrow. But my heart's saying, good win at 2-1, but I think 1-1. I'm 1-1-1.
1-0 Pope winner, says Rich Joplin. Joe?
Yeah, as I've just said, I think I'd take 1-1, Steve. It'll be a much tougher test than it was last Saturday against Nottingham Forest. There's nothing to suggest that Newcastle won't beat them. There's nothing to suggest at all. We played really well. We look on it. Wilson's back in the team and fit. If Bruno does his thing, and that back four, you could play 22 players against us. We just do not look like conceding at the moment. But as Keith said, I think that's when you start thinking with your head, it's not going to be easy. I know they've lost a couple of decent players. They had a cracking result last weekend. It's their first home game, so I'm sure they'll be at it. So yeah, I'll take a point and run.
Steve?
You know what? They're a strange team. I watched that Man United game, and Pascal Gross just had one of those days where, because he was playing Man United, he scored twice. Now that's what he does. He scores against Manchester United when he plays for Brighton. They've got some really useful players. Lallana in midfield, although his legs seem to be going rapidly, but he's still a quality player. But the lineup, they play with 3-3-3-1. It's a strange setup that they've got. With obviously the 3 immediately switches to a 5. It's going to be interesting to see how they combat that with our 4-3-3. Welbeck had a good game last week. He's movement off the ball, and that means that our 2 central defenders are going to have to be well aware that he can get into those spaces. But I'm going to accentuate the positive with us. We've got quality across our team at the minute. We've got confidence in the squad. We're faster than we've ever been in terms of trying to win back possession. We seem to have a camaraderie that we haven't had for an awful long time. And you know what? Brighton might went on a good run, but we had equally as good a run last season. We were 4th in the form table and from the latter part from Christmas onwards. So I see no reason why we can't go to Brighton, smash the hoodoo and come away with 2 points. And 3 points. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Newcastle.
Okay, Mitch, have you got the dice, or the dice retired this season?
Ooh, you know what? It might be in my bag. Let's have a look.
While you're looking for the dice, I just want to say a big hello to Paul Ferguson, who came to the Dog and Parrot to see me and Malcolm last week. He is on Twitter at ScunnyMagPaul, and he has a new book out. And it's a cracking little book called Newcastle United Away Day Guide. Had a quick flick through it when I got back home last week. The hardest part was not losing it when you're on a night out with the lads. But I did manage to keep it. I didn't lose it. Flick through it. And there's a few things in there which I didn't even know. But it is what it says on the tin. It's an away day guide. It gives you a list of bars, parking spaces, anything you need to know about those away grounds that we are going to this season. Cracking books. So give Paul a follow at ScunnyMagPaul. That's Scunny for Scunthorpe, SCUNNY, then a capital M, then AG, and then a capital PAUL. ScunnyMagPaul. Give him a follow. Get a copy of his book. Well worth it. Did you find the dice, Mitch? You've got them. Okay, here we go. First one of the season.
And it comes up. 1-1.
1-1. Yeah, I've got to be honest. That's what I fancy as well. A 1-1 draw, and that'll be a good.
I think we're going to see a very, very interesting tactical battle. How they set up and played against Man U, with how we know he's quite well drilled with tactics and wants his team playing a certain way. I think tomorrow's going to be about who wants it most.
Yeah, I think you're right. Tactics is the name of the game. I think they'll cancel each other out. I really do. Just a shout out as well. Nikki Woff sent me this. She went, "Our Jack is a fan of NUFC Matters. Loves the show." Nikki, thank you for sending that. It probably looks a little bit upset there because it hasn't been compared to Steve Hasty, but we can always change that. Just stick a wig on your dog. Stick a wig on your dog. Okay, last but by no means least, it is time for Julie's favourite part of the show. And I decided to promote one of my film projects, a new film which is coming out, something I'm immensely proud of. Stuck the trailer on Twitter, and thanks to Tim Evans, he just says, shit. You're not quite Barry Norman, Tim. And for that, you got blocked, mate. Thanks. Lots of our viewers seem to be missing the Minge on a Friday night as well. Minge will be back. He's currently on a deck chair on a cruise ship, but he will be back. Looking forward to seeing him and catching up with him at some point next week. As always, brilliant spending me Friday night with the lads, but even better spending it with you guys. Have a great weekend. Thanks to the lads for giving up 2 hours at a time. Let's hope we get 3 points, and we're talking about it next week. Don't forget, Mitch is back with Stu Penman, the professionals. Different time this week, 6 o'clock on Sunday. But yeah, looking forward to it. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
Yes, everyone.
See you for.